We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I remain your host, Mark Angelides, and we continue our conversation with Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza. Now, Scott, earlier in this show, we were talking about one specific legal push being made by the Trump administration. Now, I want to expand this and talk about the pushes against the Trump administration, which are legion, I think, is an appropriate way to describe them. It seems that everything that Donald Trump's doing, or his administration is doing, is facing. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but to me, it seems almost like what's the right way to describe it? Malicious blocking, and that there are maybe many of the cases have merit, but it seems to me that the sheer number of them, they can't all have merit. It's not as though Donald Trump doesn't have lawyers on his side. And it just seems they're trying to gum up the works of the administration.
Well, I think it was, we talked about the movie Devil's Advocate, and the quote there, it was other people's money, I think, when Danny DeVito's character had the best line, which was, after being stymied by a number of judges for a development thing, he said, in a room full of lawyers that he hired, well, if this wins, you know what happens? The commies come in. And you know what the best thing about the commies is? The first thing they do is kill all the lawyers. So in any case, that might be value added for some. But
my apologies to the listeners. We did get to a tangential reference to a Shakespeare quote. Sorry.
Yes, it seems that certainly some of them are without merit, but also that's what the courts are for, is to shake out, which ones are have merit and which ones don't. And, what's the alternative but allow the courts to work through it? It's not like Donald Trump has, before he took office, he was funding all these many cases against him. And I think there was an impetus to not only distract him with his attention, but also drive him to bankruptcy in terms of, funding all these cases. But that's not true here. The power and resources of the federal government to defend these legal cases is vast, and I think untaxed in a way that there's not actually a kind of danger that there's too much, death by 1,000 cuts. Now, they can meet the 1,000 cuts and address each one, and they should. And judges should follow the law and not what their own wishes are, of course. And I think that the Supreme Court and other appellate courts should hold them, to task. And I don't know that they're doing that, but that just, the nature that there are tons and tons of challenges. Well, what else are they going to do? That's what they've got in front of them. They've got the power to do this. They've got a deep bullpen with legal talent. The filing fees are pretty light. So the cost it's like the ROI on the whole endeavor, right? Like getting it done is very cheap if you can win. So I don't fault them for trying, I guess.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's it's a new level in the trademark resistance that we witnessed during the first term and sort of exploded during Trump's time out of office. And it does seem to me that, and again, I might have this completely wrong, and I very much understand your point that what's the alternative? We can't just say to any president, regardless of which one it is, you're clearly just being stymied, so therefore do what you want. That would be a terrible, terrible idea. But it seems to me that they're purposely, Chuck Schumer said something, and he said, we're not, and I'm paraphrasing here, we're not too worried about what's happening because we got 235 judges and these are not the exact words, but to block Donald Trump's radical agenda. And to me, that seems that he's spending whatever capital, the idea of the third pillar of government's freedom, the third pillar of the republic's freedom, he's just spending it on political partisanship. Because what he's telling people, in as many words, is that we own this part of the judiciary. And so we're going to use that as a battering ram against Donald Trump. And we're going to keep him tied up until his term's over. And the things that he wanted to achieve won't have been achieved because we used our 235 judicial appointments to stop it.
Mark, there are three branches of our government. There's the executive, the legislature, and the judicial. And those
Sure.
judicial branch appointees are nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. So, you know, it's politics are all in it. I would just say. So there's a reason why people fight like dogs to get these judges in, and there's a reason why the Democrats did away with all of their kind of
the 60 vote threshold and whatnot.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah. And all that's going to do is eventually come back in full swing the other way. So Republicans will be fast tracking radical, and there are radical judges on the right who probably shouldn't join the bench, just like there are some wingnuts from Berkeley, not some, a pile of them that they got through in the waning days of the Biden administration, to be sure. And America loses as a result, I think, when those things aren't in place. That the idea that, the judiciary is special, and while we get our picks and you get your picks, we should at least perhaps have vetoes over, the most radical folks, and we should aim for comity and agreement. And that went away when the Democrats were frustrated by the Republicans using their minority status in the Senate, to get their way. And not have a lot of radical judges enforced. So, yes, you're right. It is a political game, and Schumer plays it well. And we'll see what they do. But again, when I say what is the alternative, that's the system that is built in. The system that's built in is a politician who holds elected office makes these appointments, and they're confirmed by politicians who hold elected office. The thing, by the way, that people don't talk about, and it's killing me because I can't recall the amendment number, but we didn't have direct election of senators from the people, right? Senators were chosen by state governments. And so the entire body of the Senate was vastly different, and the things, they were concerned with. And this is the kind of thing that I think would be more moderate if it were state legislatures controlling rather than personalities like we have now.
Yeah, but as things stand, it seems like Donald Trump needs the Supreme Court on speed dial. Scott Cosenza, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark.
And that's all we have time for on this week's edition of Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I've been your host, Mark Angelides. I'd like to thank our guests today, James Fight and Scott Cosenza. Thank you both for being here. And of course, thank you, the audience at home, for taking the time to tune in each and every week. You are appreciated. Please remember, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation. And this presentation is no endorsement.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.